and welcome to this presentation on the 7 essential elements for successfully implementing the BILT model. That's the Business and Industry Leadership Team Model. This webinar is hosted by NITIC, the National IT Innovation Center, which is funded by a $7.5 million grant to the National Science Foundation to support IT education at 2-year technical and community colleges across the country. Learn more at nitic.org. My name is Mark Dempsey. I am one of the deliverable leads here for NITIC. Joining me today will be Christina Titus and Ann Beheeler. Ann is the original creator of the BILT model.
Hello, this is Ann Beheeler. For those of you unfamiliar with the BILT, a business and industry leadership team is a more proactive and energized version of the traditional advisory committee that originated with the National Convergence Technology National IT Center through NSF. BILTs put employers in a co-leadership role rather than passively approving whatever curriculum faculty proposes. A BILT provides very granular recommendations regarding the knowledge and skills businesses want to hire in the future to actively help align curriculum with workforce needs. The BILT employs a structured, repeatable, and efficient process that works for any technical discipline. As you'll see, the cornerstone of a successful BILT is the annual job skills prioritization. Always remember that faculty are in charge of curriculum. Faculty are, however, better informed to initiate new or keep current curriculum updated through the BILT process. Faculty do need to commit to actively try to address the KSAs that BILT members prioritize, but they can then problem solve together with the businesses on any item faculty do not feel they can address. The KSA meeting is a time for business leaders to weigh in, with faculty mostly asking and answering questions. The feedback meeting is run by the faculty. Successful BILTs emphasize building deep two-way relationships. BILTs give employers a co-leadership role so educators are well informed as possible about workforce needs. Faculty remain the experts in creating curriculum and in teaching students. There are 2 kinds of BILT meetings annually. There's a longer job skills vote and discussion meeting that happens once a year. We call that the KSA meeting. And then the other BILT meetings are shorter and focus on general industry trends as well as feedback from the KSA meeting. In both cases, the goal is to help educators teach what employers need new hires to know. Through all of this, there are 2 goals of a successful BILT. One is to build strong relationships between educators and employers. The better employers know you and your program, the more invested they are in your curriculum because they can see you're listening to their feedback. And that results in better benefits, bigger benefits for your students from your employers. That could be providing guest speakers, donating new equipment, or even recently replaced equipment, volunteering at job fair workshops, or judging capstone projects. The second goal of the BILT is to align curriculum to workforce needs. In the BILT model, the educators are always listening to employers and planning adjustments to curriculum for the future. Everything about the BILT is geared to building relationships and aligning curriculum.
So here are the 7 essential elements we've identified. Successful BILTs do all 7 of these things. They convene quarterly. They schedule time for the BILT members to talk about trends. They invite faculty to attend all the meetings. They conduct annual prioritization votes and discussions of job skills. They map those prioritized job skills to curriculum to identify and resolve any gaps. They give regular feedback to the BILT, and they assemble single discipline BILT groups to leverage employer know-how. Let's go through these one by one.
Hello, this is Christina Titus. Essential BILT element number 1. It's important to meet often. Too many schools hold just 1 or 2 meetings a year, which isn't enough to build strong relationships. If you rarely see your employers, how can you forge lasting collaborative relationships? We recommend the 1 longer vote meeting and then 3 shorter trend meetings, so you're meeting every quarter. Out of sight, out of mind is a very real phenomenon.
This is Anne again. The second essential element for a successful BILT is asking the employers to discuss industry trends. As mentioned, the shorter meetings, the ones where you're not doing a job skills analysis vote, should be devoted to letting the employers talk about what they're seeing in the future. Where is the industry going next? Maybe even 3 to 5 years in the future. What will be the next big thing students need to learn? What keeps them up at night worrying about the state of their business? The feedback from these trends meetings keeps educators up to date on what's happening now and in the future. Obviously, in these discussions, employers aren't expected to reveal anything proprietary. One way to help spur discussion of trends is to present the BILT members with workforce charts and graphs like this. Sometimes it's easier to react to something than to come up with discussion topics from scratch. Or you can formulate a few questions related to future needs to seed the discussion. You may also want to consider creating one-page trend summaries to share with those who attended the meeting and those who weren't able to attend. This kind of handout can also help recruit other employers to attend your BILT.
The third essential element for a successful BILT is to invite faculty. We've worked with some schools that didn't allow faculty to attend the employer meetings. It's obviously critical that educators hear recommendations and perspectives firsthand directly from employers. It's also good to have faculty in the BILT meetings in case they need to answer an employer question. In some cases, educators may also need clarification from the employers. Overall, though BILT member employers are the ones doing most of the talking at BILT meetings, faculty are there to listen.
BILT essential element number 4. The annual job skills prioritization vote and discussion is the most important task the BILT will perform. Using an online tool, employers will rank each entry-level job skill item one by one. They're asked to make these prioritizations based on what they'll need 12 to 36 months in the future. If they tell you what they need right now, it's likely you won't have time to get those changes implemented in the classroom. Academia can move slowly, so you want to ask your employers to look ahead so you have time to make changes. There are 2 steps to this process. The employers vote, then they also discuss the results. Voting alone is not enough. Note also that to get the most out of these meetings, you need a good sample size. 2 or 3 employers are not enough. Look to convene 10 or more employers. The list you're using for the vote is either a new list you created making your best guess, what we call a pro forma list, or an older list your BILT prioritized and updated last year. Don't worry about making this list perfect. The act of voting and discussing will update and correct your list. That's the whole point. So here's what the job skills list looks like. You can see the job skills items listed one by one in rows. These are granular, so the employers are voting on a single concept. You can see also that there are vote tally columns 1 through 4. A vote of 4 means the item is essential and must be taught to students. A vote of 1 means it's not necessary and can be removed from curriculum. The far right column there provides a vote average. Notice that the top row K1 got all 10 votes of 4, so the vote average there was 4. In our sheet, averages of 2.6 or higher turn green. Anything lower turns pink, and those items typically won't make the curriculum cut. The 2.6 cutoff value is arbitrary, however, and can be adjusted. Note also this results sheet is shown during the meeting. Everyone can see the job skill items, the vote tallies, and the averages. During the discussion, BILT members have the chance to edit and rephrase some of the items to their liking. We're also given a chance at the end of the meeting to suggest new and emerging items to be considered at next year's vote.
The 5th essential element for a successful BILT is what we call mapping the job skills. After the employers do their work with the vote and discussion, then it's the faculty's turn. They convene a separate meeting to go over the BILT's updated job skills sheet, and they go through the items one by one to determine if there are any gaps between what the BILT needs in terms of the prioritized job skills and what students are learning in the current classroom. Here you can see the job skills items in rows alongside the vote average. The rest of the sheet contains columns for each class in the program. Faculty look at each job skill item course by course to determine how, if at all, that's being taught in each course. A pink E means the job skill item is getting exposure or introductory coverage, while a green T means the job skill item is getting thorough coverage. As you can see, rows K42 and K44 are only getting exposure. Is that enough? The reason the sheet is marked with a yellow in the far column is so that we remember to ask the BILT whether that's enough or not. Actually, probably it's not enough for K44, which has a pretty high average for getting exposure in just a single class. That's probably a gap that needs to be addressed. K45 isn't getting covered at all, but that's likely okay since the average is 2.18. If there are clear gaps, then faculty can decide how to address them. Maybe they need to create a new module. Maybe they need to make a new course. If they're unsure, it's also possible to ask the BILT for their guidance. Maybe the BILT can help decide if the exposure for K44 is good enough. And as you can see, the value of this format is that faculty have concrete, actionable metrics for each job skill rather than paragraphs of meeting minutes.
The sixth essential element for a successful BILT is giving feedback. Don't let your employer feedback disappear into the ether. Make sure they feel valued and heard. Share what you've done with their suggestions. Explain what adjustments and additions you're making based on what they told you at the last meeting. We've heard many stories from employers who provided feedback, but soon realized the school wasn't listening to them and stopped participating. One of the best ways to create investment is to demonstrate to your employers that they are actively helping to improve the program. This includes letting the BILT know if you're having trouble. If you can't do something they recommended, let them know so they can help problem solve and feel ownership of the solution. We've worked with schools where employers donated equipment or adjunct professors.
The seventh and final essential element for a successful BILT is inviting your employers to leverage their unique expertise. When it comes to annual job skills prioritization, you want to be sure you have in the room only experts in that discipline. Here's what we mean. You can conduct your trends meetings with BILT members across all disciplines. We call this the mega BILT. And the example here, spring meetings and summer meetings can talk trends and invite IT employers from networking, programming, and security. They're all together talking big picture needs. But for your annual job skills prioritization meeting, for the vote, you convene those groups separately. In this example, you'll host 3 vote meetings in the fall, one for networking, one for programming, and one for security. The idea being that in general, your employer expert networking job skills won't have that same level of expertise in programming job skills. So let's recap the 7 essential elements of successful BILTs. They meet regularly. We suggest each quarter, but for sure 3 times a year. They schedule time to allow the BILT members to talk about industry trends. They let faculty attend all the meetings so they can hear from the employers directly. They conduct annual prioritization votes and discussions of job skills. They map those prioritized job skills back to curriculum to make sure it's aligned. And if it's not, then faculty can develop ways to address those gaps. They give regular feedback to the BILT so they feel heard and valued. And finally, they divide the BILT by disciplines. Everyone gathers for the shorter trends meetings, then you convene discipline-specific BILTs for the vote discussion.
Remember again that BILTs have 2 goals, equally important: building relationships between educators and employers that will eventually involve collaborations outside the BILT meetings, and long-term relationships for supporting students. And then it's also focusing on aligning curriculum with industry needs for the future so that the graduates of our programs are workforce ready and highly sought after for employment.
Here's a table contrasting the traditional, old-fashioned advisory council with the more energized and active BILT model. Advisory councils meet once or twice a year, but a BILT meets up to 4 times a year. Advisory councils are often rubber stamp groups that approve whatever faculty presents, but a BILT is more actively making recommendations and sharing perspectives to work with faculty to improve the program. Advisory council meeting agendas are often driven by the faculty. They're looking to do all the talking and to get that rubber stamp. But in a BILT, employers help develop meeting agenda, especially for the trends talks. Advisory councils give advice, which can be taken or ignored, but BILTs are designed to give the employers a stronger co-leadership role. Advisory Council job skills recommendations are delivered through discussion and subsequently meeting minutes, but BILT job skills recommendations are delivered through a voting process with discussion that results in an actionable spreadsheet. Advisory Council members may not be kept in the loop on how their suggestions have been implemented, whereas a BILT is always informed on what's been done with their suggestions. The bottom line of all of this is that Advisory Council members may not feel invested in the program or its students. They're not meeting often. They aren't really given a chance to talk. They're not always listened to or kept informed. It's often a passive, weak relationship. By contrast, BILT members typically feel a strong ownership in a program and its students. They're part of the process.
Learn more by watching our 20-minute BILT orientation video, by downloading a detailed BILT process document, or by reading directions for creating the online voting form. So here you can find our contact information and the website URL for NITIC. One more quick plug. If your IT program isn't already a member of NITIC's IT Innovation Network, ITIN, please consider joining. The ITIN community is designed to foster collaboration, knowledge sharing, and professional growth among its two-year community college faculty and administrator members. It's free to join. Member benefits include exclusive access and priority seating for professional development webinars and workshops. Find the application at the URL below or use the QR code. Thank you for your time. We hope this webinar was useful in giving you a better idea of the 7 essential elements for a successful BILT.